what is the amount of investment you have done in this journey till now for your education?
1 year salary at least after after getting placed, I guess.
The audience, those who are watching here, wanted to know what all other companies they can apply for. Of course, Ambit is one of the company, but other than that, which all companies hire for equity research? And one of the favorite question which a lot of people are going to be searching in this video, right, and after or start of a video, and that is कि पैसा कितना देते हैं, what is the amount of money paid to the guys who are
Yes,
working
sir.
in equity research. So just a brief about what range is offered. Hello and hi, welcome to this podcast series where we are going to be discussing about equity research in this podcast. So today we have one of our students joining in who have got selected into equity research. He's going to be telling out from his journey what a typical equity research guy do, what all things are asked in interviews, and definitely he's going to be giving you a lot of pro tips to get into equity research. So if you're looking to join this domain, this podcast is for you. First of all, thanks, Samarth, for joining in for this podcast. And first of all, really, really happy and congratulations for to you to get into equity research.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for this opportunity, sir.
Great. So, Samarth, मुझे सबसे पहले I just wanted to know your journey, right? How was your journey been? Which year you started your CA curriculum, and parallelly, I could see you have also done CFA. So, just a bit glance about your journey.
So it's fairly easy actually. I have given an examination in November from 2019 till 2023. So November 19 was foundation, November 20 was inter. I cleared both of them in the first attempt. November 21 CFA level 1 and November 22 CFA level 2.
Okay.
And November 23 was the finals. So I cleared both of the groups in the first attempt there as well. So the time management here was that if for foundation, couple of months was more than enough. So that was fairly straightforward. Inter, it took the complete 9-10 months. And after that, I for the first year, generally, we are not as much dedicated towards the CA subjects because we have that 3 month gap. So initially, I started pursuing CFA level 1 immediately after the inter results. So generally, the time required for that is if you can dedicatedly prepare for it, it's couple of months is more than enough. But generally, you have to do it with articleship, so 4-5 months is more than enough. So initially, just after clearing inter, I started preparing for CFA, and I pursued SFM side by side. So both of the subjects have a lot of subjects in both of those degrees have a lot of subjects in common. So SFM and CFA L1 I did side by side. So in the 8-9 months leading to between the inter results and November 21, I did CFA L1 and SFM. And after that, I started doing the other subjects of CA, and I started preparing for CFA level 2 4-5 months before November 22. So that was a little harder because I had to take a 3 months break completely. So because the exam was harder than what I had expected previously. So I had to cut off from CA studies entirely for a couple of months, and I gave that in November 22. Thankfully, I cleared it as well. And the last year was definitely the most hectic one leading up to CA final. So that is when I appeared and cleared for the CA finals. I'm currently registered for CFA level 3. But I think I might have to I have to delay it because the work pressure is quite high here at Ambit.
Okay. Got it. So since you had done your CA journey and since you have done a CFA journey, right? So just a question which comes to a lot of students' mindset is, what is the amount of investment you have done in this journey till now for your education?
So in terms of CFA, there are two things. So firstly, if you can get a scholarship or not. So if you can get a scholarship, each level is around 30,000 or 25-30,000. You can clear it. I was not qualified for one. So currently they had increased the rate. So it's around 1.1, I think 1.2 lakh for each level. The initial registration is 20-30,000. So overall 1.25 lakh for per level. And if you're taking tuitions as well, so it's at least 30,000 depending on whom you're taking from. So all in all, it's around 4 to 5 lakh investment, depending on whether you have taken a tuition or not, and whether you got a scholarship or not. But definitely, the regular route it's 4 to 5 lakh, and CA normally it depends obviously on the tuitions you have taken. So I took tuitions for 6 subjects. I did not take for RM and audit. So audit I wish I had, but I did not. I got 40 in audit, by the way. And RM, I just watched your videos and I took all the printout of all the notes that you had on your website. So the 6 subjects in CA final, it should be around 1 lakh in tuition fees, and the same for inter. So quite a lot. 1 year salary at least after
Got it.
after getting placed, I guess.
Got it. Got it. Great. Great. Also just wanted to know about your articleship journey, and do you had any rank in this entire journey? Because a lot of students have this perception regarding if you want to get into equity research or roles like valuation or IB, right? It's important to have a rank. So just wanted to know from you, right?
So for me, I did not get any rank in all the 3 levels. I cleared CFA L1 and L2 with 90 plus percentile. So in CFA, they don't have a system of ranking. So
Hmm.
either you have passed, and the highest credential you can get is 90 plus percentile, which is not that hard to get. So that is in terms of rank, I did not get any. In terms of articleship, even hunting for jobs initially, I had this FOMO that I don't have a big four articleship. I did my articleship at a very small firm here in Kolkata, and where there we work primarily in direct tax litigation, not even indirect tax. So just GT litigation was the majority of work that was being done. So in terms of equity research, I had absolutely no background. In terms of any credentials from PwC or any big fours, I did not have even that. So definitely that is not a prerequisite. But the thing is that there has to be a differentiator, because the point is that it's a competitive field. A lot of people are trying to get into it. So having a differentiator is very important. If you have any valuation work, make sure you show it in your CV. If you have done any courses, you have to show that in your CV. Because going into equity research, they already know that you don't have any experience. They are not expecting you. They don't ask any questions from articleship, but they make sure that you have an understanding of how practically businesses are valued. So once you get shortlisted, it doesn't matter whether you had a very strong articleship background or did you have any rank or not. But getting in the process of shortlisting, you don't need an AIR. I did not have an AIR. I got shortlisted for over 4 equity research interviews. So definitely that is not a prerequisite. If you have a CFA, that is a big plus, because they do require, like, even going through other LinkedIn profiles, people who have been selected past couple of years, they do have either at least first level of CFA cleared or some progress towards CFA. So that is a definitely big plus. But as far as articleship, Big Four or any rank it goes, it's not a prerequisite, definitely.
Got it. Got it. Got it. So since we are discussing a lot about equity research, it would be great, Samarth, if you could just explain in short what is equity research and what work you guys do in equity research.
So equity research is basically fundamental analysis of the stock.
Okay.
Basically going through exactly what the company is doing, going through a holistic approach of what the company does, what the management is doing. So from the steps, there are 5 things in equity research which we are doing. Firstly is updation of valuation. So if there is an existing company we are covering, for example, one of the hotel, we are covering many companies in the hotel industry. So every quarterly, every annually, whenever they share the financial results, we have to update our model. Secondly, preparation of reports. So we have institutional clients to whom we have to share our reports every quarter or whenever they require. So updation of reports, and if the results have come out after market hours, then the updation of reports has to be done before the market opens tomorrow, because we need to send our reports to clients. So that is a time sensitive work. The third is sitting in management con calls. So the management con calls, they go from April mid to May 15th around. So sitting in management con calls, preparing the questions that need to be asked and going through that. And fourth is definitely analysis of the stock. So if we are, and so there are 2 things. Firstly, if there is a new company of there for Ambit or existing company. So if our existing company, the work revolves around generally updation of model, updation of reports. If there is if there are any client queries, so any specific client query, they want to know anything. Buy side institutional investors, they want to know anything specific about a company. So client queries come, we have to handle that as well. But if there is a new company that is going to be evaluated, then it is a complete holistic approach, going through the financials, talking with the management, going through the con calls, going through the industry reports. So if there is a new company, then the entire analysis is done from scratch. But if it is an existing company, then we don't have to do the entire work. It's already done. So that is equity research in a nutshell. If I have to put it in one line, the idea is to holistically look at a company, try to understand what the company is worth, and recommend our analysis of the stock to our institutional investors, to institutional clients.
Got it. Got it. Great. Now, also wanted to know, since you're working into equity research and you have applied into multiple companies, the audience, those who are watching here, wanted to know what all other companies they can apply for. Of course, Ambit is one of the company. But other than that, which all companies hire for equity research?
So the few companies hiring now, Ambit hires CA interns every 6 months. So they are definitely always open. The interview process takes time. JM Financial also is hiring. So they have management trainees and they hire for institutional equity informally as well. Kroll is hiring. It's even hiring right now as well. So they're hiring for business valuations and other valuation services. Where Equirus Wealth is also a company that's hiring for different divisions. Equity Research is also one of them. They're also hiring for investment banking. And there are other openings as well. So if we go to IM jobs and just put a filter, so any openings that are coming, you can be aware of that. Vendis is also hiring for investment banking if anybody's interested.
Got it. Got it. Great. And one of the favorite question which a lot of people are going to be searching in this video, right, and after or start of a video, and that is कि पैसा कितना देते हैं, what is the amount of money paid to the guys who are
Yes,
working in
sir.
equity research. So just a brief about what range is offered.
So it depends on two things. Firstly, if either you're joining as an intern or you're joining as an analyst. So generally, because CA freshers, we don't have any experience when it comes to business valuation. So either, although we have a degree, so they prefer that you do a 6 months internship before joining as an analyst or an associate. So during your internship, the salary is limited. It can range from 40,000-50,000 around that per month. But the idea is once you get placed, the salary increases a lot. So if you're joining initially as an analyst, it can vary from 10 to 12.5, 13 lakhs fixed range. And the variable varies as per the company. So if it's a very diversified organization, for example, if you take Kroll as an example, they offer 10 to 15% variable. But many other financial services, which institutional equity research is core part of the company. So if the company is growing, they offer variables as high as 30% as well. So as far as after getting placed into an analyst or an associate role, the pay is fairly decent.
Great, great, got it. Now, since a lot of them are also really, really interested into knowing more about interview questions and the journey, since you have given a lot of interviews in this journey out, so what is the typical stages of interviews which are there in the equity research?
So generally there are three things that are definitely tested. So initially, if you have a MCQ test, which is a prerequisite for a lot of for a lot of hiring process. So generally the questions are from SFM module only. So if you have your SFM covered, you don't need to do a lot. So even in Ambit there was one. So the idea is that you have the different subjects of SFM properly covered. You know the basic concepts, and there is a time crunch in the MCQ test. So if the company hiring has an MCQ test, it will definitely be there. But the idea behind the main interview process is two things. Firstly, they are not concerned with your articleship. You might have done, like I went through 4 companies interview and over 10 rounds. Not even a single round they were concerned of where I did my articleship or what my articleship background was. They have already accepted the fact that the person coming into the company won't have any financial experience. What they are interested in is a structured way of thinking. So the idea is that a person coming into equity research interview has to have basics clear in terms of basic understanding of valuation, DCF, relative, different formulas, have to have a basic understanding of Excel. That is generally not an issue. And you have to have a structured way of thinking about business valuation. So one common theme I saw across all the interviews was that they continuously give you situations and ask how you would value it. They don't ask you for a valuation specifically that, what is the amount what is the amount of share price that you would arrive at, but they're trying to look at what approach you will take when you're valuing a company. So, for example, in one of the interviews, I was given that the director told me that a company is undergoing restructuring. How would you value it? So the I divided into two stages. Firstly, if it is going to be liquidated. Secondly, if not. So if it is going to be liquidated, it's going to be valued on liquidation basis, the value that assets will be able to fetch. But if not, then what will happen? So I went through, so because it was a case of restructuring, I told him that I would go through the entire balance sheet of the company and try to understand where the problem is where the problem is lying, why the restructuring is needed. So whether if it is due to the capital structure of the company, whether there is a fundamental problem or the demand is low. So for example, if the capital structure is the problem, then that restructuring will work very well and the company can be considered that in the future it might get restructured and continue as a going concern. But if the problem isn't demand, if the problem is the cost of input is too high, it's a regulatory issue, it's an operating issue, then that is something which will be very difficult to resolve. So in that case, I would prefer using a liquidated value. So like even in this question, I did not have any background on how to value a company, but the idea is they're looking for a structured approach to thinking. So one of the interviews they asked me that, if a company is coming into an IPO and the company has a very high growth rate coming up to the IPO, do you expect the company will able to continue that growth rate? So the idea is they want to know, they don't want you that you give an immediate answer yes or no. They want to know you, they want you to ask questions. Where is the growth coming from? Whether the company is entering into new markets, there are new products, what are the growth drivers, whether marketing is very good, the marketing is very good, either the distribution is very good. So where is the competitive advantage lying? Is it sustainable in the future? And if yes, will you give a buy or sell recommendation? So the idea is they give you many situations, and these are just two examples. In every interview, each stage of the interview, they give you multiple situations. So they ask you why DCF, why relative. If it's a new company startup, why what approach would you use? Can you use a blanket cost of equity rate? So they ask all these questions and they try to understand how you would approach a given situation. So if somebody is asking me how I would value cost of equity for a startup and how I would value cost of equity for a mature company, then the answers would be different. So mature company, the CAPM model works. For a startup, CAPM model does not work. The company risk premium is very high. So they expect you to give alternative answer. You can take a blanket 30-40% rate. That's fine as well. There are many VCs who do that as well. So it's not that you need to know exactly how it is done, but you need to know that how to basically approach the entire valuation process. So they are looking for a practical understanding. They don't expect to have the practical knowledge, but they expect you to have a very structured thinking.
Got it. Got it. So the first stage mostly is going to be, you're saying, the MCQ test or a test round. Second, it's going to be more of checking your analytical mindset and approach regarding the technical topics which are there, right? So there are going to be multiple rounds, right? I think 2 or 3 rounds can be also possible.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, also, I want you to highlight on what all topics someone should read or a must recommended topic before they are going to be going for an interview. And also, I would be happy if you could just highlight on some other few important questions which someone need to prepare before they are going for equity research.
So first thing is that this situational analysis is present across all the interview stages. So if it's a 3 interview stages, every stage they're going to ask you situational analysis question. So even it doesn't matter the role, they are definitely going to ask you this. And apart from as far as the topics that you need to study is, firstly, you need to have a stock pitch ready. So you need to study one industry in very specific. And because what they do is at the end of the interview, they ask you a simple question: have you invested in any stocks personally or not? And let's say if I say a stock, they're going to ask specifics about that stock. Why did you invest in Nestle? Why did you invest in Dabur? What made you invest your own personal money into this? So what they're basically asking you indirectly is, do you have a stock pitch prepared for this particular stock or not? And even apart from that, a lot of time they just ask you, tell me about a stock you know. So in that case, you need to be very well versed when it comes to a particular stock that you have already prepared. So for me, I studied the FMCG industry. So I had a stock pitch prepared for Nestle and Dabur. So in most of the interviews at the end, they asked me this question. So I had a 7-8 minutes entire pitch ready basically for Nestle. So at the end of the so because even if they're not expecting me to know, if I give a 7-minute pitch for Nestle, they are going to be convinced that I've read it. So
Okay.
that is very important. And secondly, as far as reading goes, firstly, you have to be very clear on your basics. So if they ask you, like, there's a good chance they will not ask this, but they ask you the formula of FCE and FCFF, you cannot mess that up. If they ask you how beta is calculated, at least the formula, you have to know that, because these are the very basics that you need to know. The second is, one thing I would highly recommend is going through the MBA course by evaluation by Ashwath Damodar. Because the thing is that even in SFM, the theory we are taught, that is not how practical world works. Because calculation of beta is done differently. Risk premium is calculated in very different ways as to what we are taught in SFM and different subjects. So going through that gives you a very clear understanding of how basics work in the practical world. So that is one of them. Secondly, I would definitely recommend to go to a lot of business analysis cases on YouTube. So I used to follow Think School very religiously going for like previously for the past 2-3 years, and there are few channels as well which give you a very detailed analysis of different cases. SOIC is one of them. So the reason I'm saying this is a lot of time when situational conditions are given to you, and they when you are asked to present your analysis, those inputs really help a lot. So for example, in one of the interviews, they asked me that, the distribution, there's a consumer company where we have to analyze the distribution model, how the company is able to have such good distribution. So unless you have read something about the FMCG industry or how the distribution works, then it will be very hard to answer that question on a very practical basis, because you can say theoretical, but that does not work for people who have worked 5 years in the industry. So you have to have basic understanding across different businesses. You don't need to prepare anything in specific. Basics will suffice, but having a practical understanding when it comes to how the theory, like for example, the Kaplan model comes into play when you're actually doing it in real life is very important. Other ways of valuing businesses are very important. So these are things you need to know how practically people are valuing. If you can get into touch with anyone who's working there, that is very good. But if not, then you need to know these things. And the lastly, if you have a equity report prepared, then that will be very good. Because one of the things they look like, there are two processes in the shortlisting, right? One is getting shortlisted and the process after shortlisting. So the process after shortlisting is driven by your knowledge. So if you have a equity research report prepared from your side for any company, so example, if you're covering the FMCG industry, make a report for Nestle, make a report for Dabur. If you're covering a different industry, make a report on one of the players there. So when they ask you for a stock pitch, you can say this. You can just say in the interview, "Sir, I have a equity research report prepared. Can I share it with you?" Because that will go far in not only demonstrating that you have practical understanding, that you have practical knowledge as well in the topic. So these are the three things which are definitely, I would say, do. And the second thing is that a lot of times the tone of the interview differs on the basically the interviewer itself. So if the interviewer is going a little light on you, so if they consider that you don't have a working knowledge of equity research, so they can ask you very basic questions which you already know. But if they have decided that they're going to grill you a lot, then it's better to be prepared, because there are 3 rounds minimum. One of the rounds they're going to be very hard on you. So it's better to be prepared very well for that round.
Got it. Got it. Great. Now, since you have spoken a lot about how to prepare and what all things need to be prepared, imagine that I want to apply it to equity research. What all things I need to consider in my resume, and what all things company will consider when they are going to be shortlisting the candidate out. So, if you could highlight on this.
So 3 parts here: education, work experience, and additional upskilling. So when it comes to education, it's a bane of the industry, but attempts do count. So like in every, even the initial HR round, the first thing they're going to ask is how many attempts did it take for you to clear scale. It's not a prerequisite definitely, but if you can clear it in the first or second attempt, it's a very big plus for you. Secondly, if you can pursue CFA side by side, that is very important. One thing you can do is that, like when the exams end on November or May, so there's a 2-3 months gestation period. You can register for CFF. The attempts for level 1 happened every 3 months. So you can attempt the nearest from the May exam or the November exam and give the attempt after CA exam only. So that will help you. Before the results, you'll be prepared, and after the results, when you make your resume, you can say that I've given CFA level 1 and I'm awaiting results. So this is one of the things you can do. Secondly, when it comes to education, so generally, as I said, the work experience, they're not expecting that you have any. But if you have any work experience, make sure you put it in your CV. So what I did was that we had statutory evaluations for buyback being done in our firm. So statutory valuation buyback is nothing but the net worth analysis, and it takes 2 minutes to do. But I made a point of writing that in my CV, that I did valuation for private companies. So that is where, firstly, I made sure that I put it in my resume. Secondly, I had the knowledge to back it up. So as I said, I did MBA in valuation from Ashwat Amran. So when they asked me a question, or practical question on how DCF valuation is done, I knew how to answer that question. So if you are if you can put something in your work experience, if you have one, and if you are putting, make sure you can back it up. And thirdly is that make sure you have, like, this is absolute must that make sure when in the additional courses part of your resume, you write something you have done in valuation. So I wrote two things. One is the valuation from Ashwat Damodaran, and second is the financial modeling I did from CMA. So these are the two things I put, and MBA and valuation, and these are asked in all the interviews. So like the first thing in most of the interviews they asked is, I see you have done your MBA from Ashwat Damodaran. So what did you learn? So this is such a broad question that you can actually answer it for the next 5-10 minutes if they give you the time, and that can give a really good impression. So make sure you do all these three things definitely. And even apart from that, the thing is that the process of getting shortlisted is not easy. You need to have references. You need to know people inside the company, because a lot of time the LinkedIn mail you have on the LinkedIn post is different when you get from somebody who's working inside the company. So make sure you do that as well, because once you are shortlisted, your attempts don't matter. A lot of times your previous education doesn't matter. They are more interested in the knowledge you have right now. So make sure in the entire process of getting shortlisted, you do your best. You write everything you can in your resume. If you have a CFA, that's a big plus. And if you don't, make sure you write something about the courses you have done. And if you have done a course, make a equity research report, write that in your resume as well. Make sure you highlight it properly. So that is the first question they ask in your interview. And since they're asking that, you'll be prepared for it. So you have to have some differentiating point in your resume for which they will be able to shortlist, because not having work experience is going to be common across all CVs of a CA fresher. So that is not going to be the differentiating point. Additional courses, additional degrees, and in case you have any additional work experience, those are the three key important points.
Got it. And as you correctly mentioned out, right, you need, of course, a reference. And generally, I used to tell in my classes that you need a one right reference to get into one right company,
Yes,
right?
definitely.
So that is very, very important, especially when you're going to be going here, because a lot of people wanted to go here, but the seats are limited, right? So of course, reference is going to be helping you to some level, but after that, your technical knowledge is something which is very important. Now,
Yes.
Samarth, since you mentioned about the CMO also, so just also wanted to know what was the best thing you liked about our GR workshop or a financial modeling class? Just any sort of thing which you liked the most.
So shamelessly reaching out to everyone. Like I
Okay.
have annoyed so many people on LinkedIn that like if they knew I was taking inspiration from you, they would curse you. Like I have annoyed MD of companies, different heads of the company, CEOs of company. I literally message to everyone, and not like even after they accepted and they are not reply, I used to just continuously messaging them. Hi sir, can you please give me an opportunity and something like that. Like I had a long message already prepared, saved on my laptop, and like going through the references, I just if I see 50 people, I will send the same message to 50 people. So, and even like if I'm not getting a call from HR, generally I used to hesitate. But like now, after going through a workshop, I would just call anyone. I had to give you an interview. I've not heard back. Can you please revert back? So just messaging everyone, be it WhatsApp, be it mail, basically making sure that I prioritize my career first. So I would look at the problems, inconveniences of people aside, just trying to reach out to everyone, applying as many places as you can, and definitely looking for references. So like even this role I got through a reference only, and the reference was not somebody I knew. I had to cold call on LinkedIn only, and I did not know that you can actually do that. So definitely that is the best advice I got from your side.
Got it, got it. तो मैं वो बोलता हूँ ना बेशरम बनो, and one of the
हाँ,
dialogue, I don't know you remember it or not, if you are
yes, sir,
not doing it,
definitely.
someone else is doing it. So
Exactly.
better you only do it out, because it's all about your career, guys, and you of course need to reach out to a lot of people. If you reach out to 100 people, 10 people will be ready to help you out, and one people you need to get into your dream companies out. Now, just also one of the very interesting thing, right? Since you are working into this domain, you have a good expertise into this. So how does a typical day look like? What time you start your day, and what all things you do, right? Just a short brief.
So generally, what happens in equity research is the sectors are very fixed. So I'm covering real estate, hospitality, and luggage. So there are different teams for different sectors. So the work is not entirely overlapping, but the day is different from a normal day because the day starts at 7:45. Because what happens is before market
7:45
hours,
a.m., right?
yes, because
Okay.
before before market hours, they need all the heads and everybody in the research team sits together and basically have a very comprehensive discussion about the sectors they are covering. So it's a very good way of exchanging information. And if there is definitely a result coming in, the expectation for the results, any big event, so definitely those are discussed. But in general, all the heads of the different departments, all the people who are experienced, they exchange ideas about the sectors they're covering. So that is the initial couple of hours of the day. And after that, so the work is divided basically on what time of the year it is. So if there are client queries, so that are the first priority. So any time of the year, if there is a client queries that need to be responded to, if the quarterly results or the annual results are out. So the valuation, so the Ambit has its own valuation model. So that in that valuation model, updation needs to be done once results are out. So that is done. Secondly, reports are prepared as and when required. So generally, quarterly reports are prepared and published as well, even annual reports. So one thing with the reports is it's a very time sensitive work, because if the results are coming after market hours, then we need to put our report out before the market opens the next day to our institutional clients. So that is a very time it is sensitive work that is done. And apart from that, attending management con calls, preparing for management discussions. So even before we sit in management discussions, we have a entire work being done as to what questions we need to ask, what our expectations are, what are the expected answers from the questions we're asking. So those are very important, and these are for existing companies. If we are onboarding a new company that we need to cover, then the entire analysis has to be done. It's an entire project. So going through the financials, going through different con calls, going through industry reports, talking with the management. So if it's a private company, then we talk to management much more often. But if it's a public company, then they are not as reachable as a different private company. So it's much less frequent. But going through management discussions, going through talking with the different industry experts. So every company, even in Ambit, we have people covering different sectors. So talking with the industry expert, trying to basically build an entire holistic approach to as to do we have to give a buy or sell recommendation to our clients. So going right from the beginning up to till the end, the entire process is handled if a new company is being onboarded. So that is the entire work that is being done. One thing I would say is that for anybody who's trying to get into equity research is there's a one big disclaimer that the number of sectors you will cover is very limited. So just because you are in equity research doesn't mean you'll know everything about every industry in India. So you'll be for example in Ambit, I am covering hospitality, real estate, and luggage. So although I have idea about different industries as well, as I said, we exchange ideas on a frequent basis. But the work that is going to be specifically assigned to me is going to be just three industries as well. So even my senior, Mr. Karan Khanna sir, he has been in Ambit for 11 years. After clearing CA, he joined Ambit. But for 11 years, he has been covering just these three sectors. So if you are equity research, make sure you understand that what you're getting into, because even if you get a switch, it will not be to a different sector. So that is just one disclaimer from my side.
Got it. Got it. Great. Now, before we conclude, right, just two interesting, very, very interesting question. First, what is the best part of working into equity research? And second, give some pro tips before we leave so that anyone who is watching this podcast can clear the interview related to equity research.
So best part is definitely the management discussions. So like being a retail investor or any investor, the public documents are available to everyone. What the opportunity not available to everyone is talking with the management. So even when we are reading management con calls, big companies they get to participate in management con calls. So they decide what questions need to be asked. For a private company, we can directly have a one-to-one discussion with the management. So the amount of information you get differs because just because you are in a big company. So that is definitely the best part. And secondly, so the seeing the effect of the work we have done. So if we are, for example, if a result is coming up and we are suggesting a buy recommendation, and we see that the assumptions which we put behind our buy recommendations actually comes to fruition. So once that happens, we do see that a big jump has happened in the stock. So that is a very rewarding feeling, because the assumptions are analysis. It came into fruit. It bore fruit after the markets opened. So that is definitely the most rewarding part. And so as far as joining equity research, any tips? So firstly, if you are pursuing CA, try to pursue CFA simultaneously, because as I said, there are two process in shortlisting, before one getting shortlisted and one the interview process. So in the getting shortlisted part, this will really help you a lot. So even if you can clear one level, it's not that hard. It's a fairly easy level. So definitely try to do that. And secondly is actually take an interest in the equity research field. So like just because you're trying to get into finance, equity research should not be an option. The reason being that if you're actually taking an interest and you are going through the events that are happening, So if you see that recently a very big downfall in a bank has happened, you have to be naturally interested why it happened. Because what will happen is that after a couple of years of just going through these events, you will build up a good enough idea that when it comes to interview time, you can speak very well on it. And once you go through a lot of articles, you understand the terminology that is being used in different industries. So what happens is that in hotel industry, I remember they don't use EBITDA, they use EBITDA. There is an M added, which management fees is not included in the EBITDA. So if you can speak the language that is being spoken across industry, then that really gives you an edge. Because what happens is that in interviews, it can go anywhere. They can ask you about any industry, they can ask you about any situation. But if you have had a practical understanding of it, if you have seen a live case of it, live case happening. So if it's a liquidity issue, any bank happened, if it's a corporate issue, if you can talk about Byju's. So anything you have read for the past 1 2 years, it's going to be very helpful in your interview. And definitely, if you can make an equity research report, that is the best thing you can do. Make sure you, once you make it, you put it in your resume. You make sure if you're applying somewhere, mention that in the mail you are sending as well, because that really does make a difference. So first thing is definitely in terms of getting shortlisted, do courses by if you're CA Monk, you can do MBA in valuation by Ashwath Damodaran is the best I would recommend. If we can do an additional course, CFA or any other NISM courses are also there if you want to become if you go into the trading side of things. So these things are definitely will really help you get shortlisted, and a practical understanding is very important. So any equity research report you can work on if you and make sure you do get an understanding of one particular sector. You don't have to go through all the sectors, but have a very deep understanding of one sector, because that is going to be very helpful in the interview process.
Got it. Got it. Great. So great, Samarth. I think you covered it very well in very detailed manner, and definitely this podcast is going to be helping all of them, those who wanted to get into equity research, right? Those who are watching in, do not forget to check the links in the description, and also you can join our finance community where we post a lot of job vacancies and other details related to finance domain. Plus, also, if you guys have any queries or anything out, definitely you can put it in the comment section. We'll be happy to solve your doubts as well. And those who wanted to connect with Samarth, he's there. His LinkedIn link is in the description. Definitely do check it out. Thanks, Samarth, for joining in. Wish you all the best for your career ahead. Stay in touch, and definitely want you to grow more and more in your life and career ahead.
Thank you so much, sir. And I just wanted to thank you once again personally, because like even this entire process, I called you like 10 times and I was calling you at very unarly times. So definitely thank you for being available all the time.
Anytime, anytime. Thanks.
Thank you so much, sir.